impact happens on the ground. Impact is something that requires that people on the ground also understand what even research means, which is something I think is really a major gap in Africa, because researchers do their research at the very high level, but this the research, the message do not necessarily resonate with the people, and these are the settings, the people, the society, where we expect that the research could, bring some benefits to them. So that gap is a major challenge.
Thank you so much, our audience, Success Africa. Today we have met a very resourceful person in this continent, and we decided to have a weekend chat to see and to get to know what he thinks about the continent and the communities around where he comes from. So welcome to Success Africa. You can begin by telling us who is Dr. Joanes Atela.
So thank you very much, and privileged to talk to Success Africa, which is doing a fantastic job in this continent, and it would be a great opportunity to tell my story. So as you mentioned, my name is Joanes Atela, and I'm currently the convener of the African Research and Impact Network, which is a network of more than 126 researchers and policymakers drawn from over 36 African countries, with the aim of engaging and having periodic discussions around what are some of the best research and policy practices in the continent, and of course in different parts, in different countries within Africa, but also looking at an opportunity to try and link the science or the research that is being done within the continent to support or to inform policy and of course action that reduces poverty and enhances what we call sustainable development. So I'm passionate about research and development. I'm passionate about mentorship towards that particular end, but also I'm passionate about Africa taking a lead in terms of knowledge, Africa being more organized in terms of propelling the story about Africa when it comes to different areas of the society, development, innovations, skills, and many other ideas that are important for the continent. And so this is why I'm really keen on some of these platforms that bring skills and knowledge together to be able to bring that story out much more clearly.
What is the position of Africa in terms of research and development? What have you done recently? And where do you see Africa in the near future?
Thank you. Very interesting question. The position of Africa in terms of research and development. Africa is, as a continent, is very passionate about research and development, and this is because as a continent we have a blueprint or a strategy called the Africa Agenda 2063, which was is a strategy that has been contributed by all the member states of Africa. And this is an agenda that really aspires to make Africa a much more industrialized continent, but in a sustainable way. Within that strategy, and to achieve that aspiration, one of the things that has been emphasized is the element of knowledge-based economy and the role of research and innovation in driving that process to achieve that industrialization. And in that sense, there has been a lot of passion and initiatives within the continent towards enhancing the research agenda. One of the things that we can say at the moment that the continent is focusing on is to increase the investment in research and development, and to increase the amount of money, the share of the national budget that goes into research and investment. For a long time, most African countries have basically invested less than 1% of their GDP into the research. And holistically, if you compare Africa and other developing regions in terms of how much share of the GDP is put in research, you realize that Africa is almost, very significantly, the rate of investment or the share of investment is significantly below, is low compared to most of the regions in the world. So what that means is that for a long time, the role of research in Africa in driving development has not been very strong. But now, in the last decade, through this particular agenda, we are seeing a situation whereby there is commitment. And one of the things that the member states have committed to do is to increase the investment in research and development to 2%, of the GDP. I think now it is in the next few years. So that is a very important initiative. And the other thing is that Africa is trying to establish new partnerships that could also support research in terms of funding, but also in terms of skills and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to say is that research and development is central in the Africa's pursuit for development. The mechanisms for achieving that are already rolling out, like increasing the investment in research, establishing some of the mentorship programs through partnerships with international partners. And of course, strengthening the research systems. We have a lot of national research agencies that are being established. Health systems research are being strengthened. We have agricultural systems research also that are also being strengthened in that particular sense as well.
And we hope that the continent will continue investing in research.
Yes.
So that we can have more understanding of what we need to do as a continent.
Yeah.
That takes us to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has ravaged and stabilized our normal operations as a continent and as a globe.
Yeah.
We have had world leaders talking about inequalities in vaccine distribution. What is the status of Africa, and what can Africa do in relation to the virus to be able to sustain a consistent vaccine production and dissemination to the people?
I think when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine, Africa has made some strides in terms of trying to develop its access to the vaccine. And one of the things that the continent is trying to do is to strengthen the local manufacturing capacity, basically to be able to manufacture the vaccine and reach most of its population. So that is a key effort, but also I think the other element that has also kind of challenged the element of vaccine access relates to what we call the vaccine hesitancy, where a number of African populations have been hesitant to take the vaccines for whatever reason. Some of this are related to misinformation, but we see the continent opening up in terms of creating channels for information to inform people on what actually is the true message, the true evidence about the vaccine. So we see a number of people, or a big share of the population increasingly accepting the vaccine. So the rate of hesitancy, which was there initially, is opening up. And that has happened to an extent that the continent now is having a scarcity of the virus. And to address the scarcity, I think what I've said in the last few minutes is that there's a lot of efforts to strengthen the local manufacturing capabilities and to be able to increase the number of, or the amount of vaccines available for the population. And that is a step in the right direction. The other thing that we see happening is in the fact that there's a lot of investment in research which related to COVID. I think African governments and African stakeholders are putting a lot of money in the COVID research activities, but also in the COVID support systems. And this basically is going to go a long way in terms of opening up and creating more opportunities for people to access the vaccines.
That's good news, the progress that Africa is making. Let's go back home. They say charity begins at home.
Yes.
Can you tell us where you come from? Because we already know that you come from Kenya.
Yes.
Tell us where you come from specifically in Kenya, and what are you doing around your community?
So where I come from in Kenya, I've been brought up in the western part of Kenya, in the shores of Lake Victoria. That is my home area, where I've grown with under the care of my parents, and we've depended a lot on the local resources and local labor for livelihoods, and that basically is what also helped in terms of driving my education. So at the moment, given that I have gone into a space where I'm interacting with the international community in terms of research and development, and basically having a lot of networks, as I've mentioned, for instance, under the African Research and Impact Network, which is looking at research, how to connect research to policy and to the society, and many other platforms that I've been exposed to. So I have had this passion about how do we connect these big opportunities at the global level and the experiences and the skills back to the community in a way that really enhances the impact of research itself. Because for a long time, one of the major gaps in Africa is in the fact that, and this is one of the reasons why governments have been hesitant to invest in research, is because they say they don't see the impact of the research that is happening. There are a lot of projects that have been funded, both from the government, the national government, but also internationally. So a long list of projects that are, continue to come. One project ends, another one comes. And in the process, we lose. We don't, there has been a gap in terms of connecting what this research do to real policy impact and onto the ground. So I'm really passionate in trying to see how do we link the research that happens back, to the community, and try to understand what are some of the challenges and the opportunities that can really be looked into when it comes to bringing back the skills and the research progress back to the community. One of the things I'm passionate about is to build a mass of skills at the local level who are able to understand the value of research, even at that basic level, because impact happens on the ground. Impact is something that requires that people on the ground also understand what even research means, which is something I think is really a major gap in Africa, because researchers do their research at the very high level, but this the research, the message do not necessarily resonate with the people, and these are the settings, the people, the society, where we expect that the research could, bring some benefits to them. So that gap is a major challenge. So how do we ensure that we create systems, innovation at the local level, which are able to link to those research opportunities? So one of the things I'm passionate about is to establish maybe what we call centers of excellence and mentorships at the local level. And part of this would be to really ensure that there's already a mass of young talents who are having some understanding. They're able to interpret, working with some of those high-level experts, they're able to interpret the research that is being done, to work with the communities to drive that agenda and to create the impact, and also to enhance just the content, what we call the bottom up, where they're able to communicate what are the circumstances within the communities, and how can these circumstances, what are the needs of the communities, what are the challenges that the communities face, and how can this be communicated better to the researchers or to the policymakers, so that whatever is being done is actually resonating to these particular needs on the ground. So that is a key area that I'm very passionate about at the moment.
From the community that you come from,
yeah.
What are the particular challenges that you can mention? Maybe the one that is really affecting people, and how can it be addressed? This is from your own perspective.
Number one is lack of proper organization at the community level and structures to help really create those linkages. And this is because there has not been leadership to bring even talents within the communities together, to bring the innovations within the communities together, and be able to then link up to some of the opportunities, to whatever research is being done, to the policies, in a way that then can bring back those ideas from the higher level to the ground. I think the other challenge that we can see is the lack of skills and understanding. And when you talk about research and communities, these are two worlds apart. And this is something I've mentioned, that without skills at the community level to be able to understand at least some basics of the research and why the research is being done, it is really not easy to bridge that gap, to be able to move forward in terms of impact. And finally, I think the other major challenge is is the way the communities have been treated. They've mostly been treated as sources of information rather than beneficiaries of information. And if you look at the research and policy, it's always about coming to the communities and asking them, what do you want, or what is the challenge you face? And then this information is taken, then researchers publish the papers, policy makers make the strategies, but there is no initiative to ensure that all these basically make meaning or sort of support the community. So in these communities remain mostly as sources of where information is extracted, rather than people are supposed to benefit from the research itself.
Your achievements and roles in the African continent are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I believe there has to be factors and attributes that led you to be this successful. What are these factors? What made you to be Dr. Atela?
The factors to be successful, I think there are always general principles that people look at to be able to achieve what they want. But I think for me, one of the things that has propelled me is, first of all, the fear of God. And that is why you saw recently when I organized a Thanksgiving ceremony for my 39th birthday back at home, which basically focused on giving back to the community, trying to plant a new idea into the community, and trying to say thank you, and trying to open up their eyes to see that, look, we can work together. This is my home, and we can, come back to give some hope to you. And for me, that was anchored on the grace of God. So that is for me one key principle, that everything I do, I basically commit it to God, and because that's the basis within which I've grown as a Christian. Number two, I'm a very result-oriented person, which I like the fact that when we say things, we have ideas, that we are able to put these ideas into practice. There are many people who have said a lot of brilliant ideas. Even if you go to political functions in the communities, there's a lot of good things. I sometimes sit with my fellow professionals talking about the challenges that communities face, and they really understand the challenges. They really understand the solutions, and they can give a very brilliant strategy now to solve to solve some of these challenges. But the gap is in the implementation, action oriented, to be able to get some of these strategies put in place. And part of the challenge is what I said before, the lack of these structures to be like catalysts, to encourage people to engage more with the communities and all that. So that lack of platform then makes it difficult for many people to act on some of the best ideas. So for me, I try to push in terms of creating those platforms to ensure that we are able to translate some of the innovative ideas that we are talking about into practice. And that is something that in whatever way, it can be in a small way, but certainly can speak to many other people and mobilize many other opportunities to see that something is happening, so we can then put in more to get more moving in that particular process. And number three, I think one of the things that I'm very focused on bringing people together and creating platforms. And this is the reason that also propelled me to convene or found this network called the Africa Research and Impact Network, because I have been a researcher for now almost 10 years or more than 10 years. And within those years, I've implemented lots of projects. I've worked with lots of people from different parts of the world. And one question I've been asking myself, so what? Of course, I'm going to finish one project, go into another, there is another one calling there, I will, do all that. But so what? What does all this mean to the challenges that we face in the society? And yes, we have a list of some of the good projects, some which have given out or produced some good data, some good learning, some good practices and experiences. But some of these practices, experiences, and opportunities always are left the moment we jump into another research project. So my concern has been, how do we leverage research to make sense to the community? So within this network, I am very passionate about bringing back the research that has been done and convening both researchers and policymakers to discuss or engage with these particular experiences and learnings, and see where are the opportunities to integrate some of this in a way that can help us to make better policies, but not just policies, but also to connect back to the community. So that is very key for me, and that is the same thing I'm also trying to do at the community level, such that we are able to create these platforms at the very global level, but we are able to reflect again the impacts of these platforms at the local level. And again, for that to happen, we would need that kind of organizational structures at the community level that then creates pathways through which those linkages can be done. So I am really very passionate about bringing collective structure. So that has also been one thing that has helped me to be where I am, or to be able to achieve whatever I've been able to achieve.
Finally, as we conclude our interview, what would be your message of change to your community and to Kenya?
Don't listen to politicians. Yeah. Don't listen to politicians.
Why?
Because they are liars. They come lie to you and tell you that they're able to solve your problems, but all they say are basically lies for you to vote for them, but your problems remain, your challenges remain, they are not solved. So don't listen to politicians, listen to ideas that will change your lives. This is the most critical decisions that communities have to make. And this, for me, is one of the seeds that I am passionate about planting. A new ideology where we can be honest with the communities and we can make or build trust, with the communities. And this is, for instance, one of the things that during one my Thanksgiving event, that we brought the communities in my village, together, basically to, showcase or thank them and try to understand what the challenges, or try to present to them some of the opportunities that are there. One of the things that we were passionate about is to communicate the idea about transformative change. That change can happen. You need to educate your child, support them to go and they can basically succeed and become somebody in the society. And that when this happens, we can start thinking about a new ideology about the communities in a way that basically focuses on linking much more strategically to the challenges that the communities face. And in the event that I'm talking about, we basically tried to lock out the politicians from this particular initiative. Of course, a number of politicians came and they wanted to use the opportunity to also gain some political mileage. But because we were speaking to the hearts of the communities and we were trying to show the community that, look, you need to get a better deal. One of the things we need to do is to be honest. We need to plant a new ideology of hope that the communities can trust that there is hope here and they can give their effort and focus. So in that particular narrative, I think the place and the role of the politicians was kind of very minimal. So we changed the narrative to communities focusing more on what can we do rather than what can this politician do to us. And most of the politicians who were even at this particular event basically didn't get the kind of interest that the communities would always try to show them. But this is because the community's attitude, perspective is already changing, because we are planting a new idea of change, an idea of honesty, an idea of really understanding what the communities need, an idea of working together with the communities to resolve the challenges. Not because I want a position, not because I want to control CDF, but because we believe that we have the responsibility as African professional researchers, whichever position you hold, even if you are a farmer, to really work together to resolve some of the challenges and to do so in a honest, transparent, and in a very hopeful way.
Thank you so much. Great insights there. We really appreciate your time for talking to Success Africa. It's our hope that your endeavors and your vision will be able to gain momentum in the community. And we also wish you well in your national and international duties as you go back to make a change in the continent.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.